Welcome back to Tax Talk with Hey, where we offer simplified tax planning and mentorship to help 6 and 7-figure CEOs ditch the daily hustle by achieving financial independence from your business by increasing your purchasing power and diversifying your source of passive income. Through financial mentorship, realistic goal setting, and simplified tax planning, without having to hustle for the rest of your life, with the guarantee of the optimal roadmap to move you towards your desired time freedom. Hey everyone, I am your host, Suhei Piedra. Welcome back to our podcast, Tax Talk with Hey. Today I am going to be here with my sister, Brisa, and we're just going to have a little bit of a conversation on a topic that comes up for us on a regular basis. When we deal with clients that are new to us and they're changing tax professionals.
Yep. So let's start with what are some of the reasons why people, small businesses, and owners might change their tax professional.
So obviously, as we know, there could be many reasons why people change their tax professionals. Sometimes it's not funny, but a lot of people say, I think my tax professional died. My tax preparer died. I can't get a hold of them. We have a client that came in and says, I think I killed my tax professional, you know? And so we laugh because it's funny that, you say that, but in our industry, that is very common, that tax preparers work till they die. And it's sad to think that they work themselves to death, basically, right? But that happens. And then there's no succession plan, so they don't leave someone else in their place to take over. You get notified maybe by a family member, or you're trying to call and you can't get a hold of anybody, and somebody ends up letting you know that, this person passed away. So it's a very sad thing to go through, but that does happen. And so your professional, may be a little older now, and they either pass away, maybe they retire, maybe they sell their business. That's been going on a lot right now, where older generations of tax professionals are selling their practices to new individuals. And sometimes you're like, well, I've been with this tax person for so long that I don't know if I want to go with this person that they chose, or I'm not hitting it off with a new individual. So it's time to start looking for another tax professional. So those are pretty common. Yeah. And sometimes there's what?
The red flags. I want to go with the red flags because I feel like those were kind of positives, right? They retire. They were so good. You were there till they retired, till they passed away. But there's also others that they want to maybe, or don't even see it, but there's something iffy about going into their offices or wherever they're located. And so let's talk about red flags. What are some of the things that you might feel you should start looking?
Well, some of the red flags that come across my desk are things like the client says, I never reviewed my return. I never signed it, So it's like there's a signature here. This return was submitted on your behalf. You guys have to understand that these tax returns at the end of the day are your numbers, and they are, submitted on your behalf. So you're, at the end of the day, responsible for what was submitted. And so you want to have an opportunity to review that with your preparer, make sure that the numbers you provided are all listed on that return, that, important questions have been discussed, important topics, life-changing. I mean, I had a client come in the other day. They had a tax return that, they wanted us to go over, and they were missing a child. They were missing a child, a dependent. And so that was a huge, credit that they missed out on. That was a huge write-off that they could have taken advantage of. But the prepared forgot to put in their new baby in the tax return. So things like that happen, and those may be some red flags. Others, maybe are when, your preparer moves every single year from office to office. It's like, what are they running from? Why can't we just stay put in one place, So those are some things that come across our office. The big one is, though, when they have you sign as preparer.
Yeah.
Right? Brisa will be in here and be like, they hired a tax preparer, but their return says self-prepared. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, either they hired someone that didn't have a license, or they hired someone that did some crazy, entries and don't want to take or assume responsibility for that return. And so what they do is say, well, you prepared it yourself, so you have to sign for it. And that's not okay. You want to make sure that you're dealing with individuals that have that professionalism of saying, okay, this is what's on your return. And they sign as the preparer and you sign as the taxpayer. So
yeah, the one that blows my mind the most is that they don't get explained their tax return to them.
it's not typical, yeah.
Yeah, like they really just, and when they come out of here or something, like they're just mind blown of everything you've told them, or little things that they could make changes in, even if they're W-2 changes that they could make. And it's like, I didn't know that I could do that. You know, it's just the information that's missed.
Yeah. So in the tax world, in the tax industry, it's typical for there to be, volume. So it's like you're in and you're out, you're in and you're out. You drop off your stuff, you pick it up, and that's pretty much all there is, right? Mm-hmm. So there's no one-on-one with your tax professional to really go over like what's on that return, what can you possibly do different to change it for next year. It's very repetitive. It's like the numbers go in, whatever the computer spits out, here you go. So you kind of want to make sure that you're meeting with somebody that is taking the time to review those figures with you.
Yeah, and having a conversation with you.
Conversations.
Because they might not know that you just had a newborn last year.
Yes, that asked the right questions.
Yeah. So what do you think are some of the qualifications to look for?
So qualifications is big, right? Because I get a lot of people that right away ask me, are you a CPA? What licenses do you have, And it goes beyond that, in my opinion. I am not a CPA. Could I be? Could I have taken the test? Yes. I have an accounting degree, but I've had my enrolled agent license for a lot longer. And I've been certified to do taxes in California for 21 years now or something like that. So the licenses are there. But what makes me good at what I do is really the fact that I take the time to review things, to look for things, and to guide you into tax saving strategies. So that has been learned through years of experience, dealing with higher end individuals, and then being able to say, hey, this strategy applies to all of us, not just people that make millions of dollars, And so a lot of the times people are like, well, only the rich, have opportunity to take advantage of these tax savings. And that's not true. It's just that what happens is the wealthier individuals have the resources to hire higher end professionals, and those strategies kind of stay there. Doesn't mean they don't apply to smaller businesses and smaller earning individuals. It's just no one takes the time to learn them. So when I talk about qualifications, I'm not talking about necessarily licenses. Are you a CPA? To me, that means nothing, because what happens is there's CPAs out there that do crappy jobs. There's enrolled agents out there that do crappy jobs. So that has nothing to do with it, in my opinion. What it has to do with is what you're really trying to achieve for that client. We spend a lot of money in continued education, but not just on like credits, not just on updates and changes that the IRS is making, but we spend a lot of money, invest a lot of time on learning how to save taxes. So those strategies are learned. I've got to go to all of these conferences. I've got to go to all of these classes, watch webinars. I have my staff watching webinars, because that's how we learn ways to help reduce tax liability legally. How can we take advantage of certain IRS codes that are not typically used, but that may apply to certain clients? So those, to me, are the real qualifications. Find yourself a tax professional that spends and invests time in learning these strategies.
Yeah. And I see it because it's helped all of us. What you're learning, because you bring it down to us, and now we can answer simple questions as well.
But or of these strategies. You're like, hey, that makes sense.
Yeah, we might not know how to put it into place, but we know of it, and it helps us with the clients. Yeah.
So I think that's what we should focus on. is definitely the investment of time that they have on continuing education for saving taxes.
Yeah. Do you think that your tax professional should have an expertise in a certain area?
That comes in handy sometimes. We at Prominence get known for like real estate, right? Real estate investors, real estate transactions like 1031 exchanges and all that stuff. So we get a lot of referrals that have to do with that world. And so what I've come to realize is that not every professional knows how to do these. And a 1031 exchange transaction itself is complicated, right? And now to do the return, well, when you do one every, couple of years, every 5 years, that it's even harder because you're not used to doing them on a regular basis. So if you hire somebody that just kind of deals with that, they're going to know what other strategies are available to use. They're going to be familiar with ways that you can make the strategy even work better for you, when to take advantage of it, when to not. So it's more of finding somebody in that area that really works within that industry to elevate those strategies. Some people say, oh, well, I'm a cop. Do you work with cops? There's nothing special about cops. I'm sorry. There's individuals that say, yes, I work with cops. And if you go to their office, there's every client that they have is an officer. But there's really nothing specific different other than they're just W-2 employees, But there are other specifics. Some people say I only work with like in small businesses, right? Or they have Kaiser doctors that get K1s and all this stuff. There's some things in behind those that, hey, these strategies work for them. Therefore, you may want a professional that specializes in those strategies. So nothing wrong with looking for somebody that has that particular niche, but overall finding somebody that's going to take the time to say, hey, I really don't work with these kind of clients, so find somebody like trust, right? Yeah. We have to turn away sometimes business and trusts. Not that we don't do the return. I can do the return. It's just there's others out there that just know them so well because that's all they work. Nonprofits.
Yeah.
Nonprofits, there's certain things you can do with nonprofits that if you find a professional that specializes in them, they're going to show you how to maximize those type of returns. And that's where I think that the niche comes into play.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with, especially with the real estate, because we get them and they already know that that's what you do because they've heard it from somebody else.
Yeah.
Okay,
and
so
I can answer questions quicker than when it's a trust or a nonprofit. Let me do some research and I'll get back to you, So it's like kind of finding those professionals that specialize in those areas.
Yeah. So then let's say you already have a list of tax professionals you like from whatever. How do you know that that's going to be the right one?
So I'm big on personality matches. I do it all the time. When I refer you to an attorney, I refer you to a lender, I refer you to, whoever. To me, it's like if you're the type of client that they're used to working with, they're going to service you better. So if you have a list of professionals, I would do something like give them a call. Do they take the time to answer your questions? Do they take the time to answer your call? Do they make you feel part of, of family in a sense? If that's important to you, maybe that's not important to you, and you want someone to just get the job done and lay it out to you and see you next year, kind of a preparer. So that's where I think that becomes important. It's like, what's important to you? Is personality important to you? The way they treat you when you come in, But other than that, if you have a list of them, narrow them down by their qualifications and then the personality match.
All right. Do you know how a tax preparer should cost? What ranges, or should they not really focus on fees?
Look, that's the number one question we get when people call. How much does it cost? You're really asking the wrong question. I can't emphasize that enough. It shouldn't be how much they're going to charge you. It should be how much are they going to save you, okay? We recently have had some amazing case studies with clients that, have come in And I'm like, look, it's going to cost you this much to work with us. Oh, that's too much. We can't afford you. I'm like, well, if I look at your tax return and I can find these tax savings, we'll use those funds to pay for our fees. Is that something that, will interest you? And then they'll be like, for sure, so we sit down, we meet with them. We go over our fee structure. We go over all of the tax savings. And it's a no-brainer. Why would you not hire a team that their dedication is to help you save taxes? So it does not matter that my fee or our fee is higher than the other person when I'm going to save you twice or 3 times as much in taxes. What happens is the industry is used to asking how much instead of saying, where's the tax savings? So I think a lot of people miss that. And it's unfortunate because when they look at our fee and they're like, oh, that's too much. It's not too much when you look at the tax savings. You guys have to understand that when I say we invest a lot of money into my continued education, we invest a lot of money into my continued education. I am members of so many different groups that talk about really high-end strategies. And so when you call me and you tell me you're doing this, isn't it nice that I say, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about? The only reason I know these high-end strategies is because I go to these classes, I go to these webinars, I invest in being with other higher-end, professionals that we can talk about strategies like this. Yeah. So where we have to that translates into tax savings for you. And for us, it has to be covered in the services that we provide, in our cost, But at the end of the day, no questions asked. Our fee is covered by the tax savings year in year after year.
Correct. And then the other thing that I feel like a lot of people focus on, and it really shouldn't be, is like, if you look at the national average, because I know that you've made me look at this.
Yes.
Why do you expect it to be less than that?
Yeah.
Like, when the national average is a certain amount, like, I don't know why.
Yeah,
people
the
feel
national
like
average. Yeah, I think the national average is like $300 or something like that. But for what? You have to look at what is it that covers, right? It's simply inputting numbers into a computer, spitting out some forms, and saying, "Here you go." Well, if that's what you're looking for, if that's going to satisfy, great. People say, "Can I use TurboTax?" Heck yeah, you can use TurboTax. Is that what you should be doing is the question. Because what happens is, even though the software you use, the prepare that you use, and you just provide this information and it spits out, they give you back what the computer says, how do you know you took advantage of all of the new regulations? How do you know that you got all of the credits available to you? How do you know that there's not a different way for you to be doing things if no one is communicating that to you? That will be the difference. That's definitely going to be where we stand out.
All right. And then do you feel like location matters of where your tax preparer is?
So we always talk about us being federally licensed, right? And this was before COVID. We've always been federally licensed. But we have clients that were like, one I clearly remember of, he's in Florida. I've never met the guy. Okay. He was referred to me, and he's been our client for many years. And Zoom was not invented, in 2020. It was invented before that. So I could have been meeting with this client via Zoom, but it was always a phone call. It was always a phone call that we communicated through. And after COVID, it forced a lot of individuals to use Zoom, to learn how to use Zoom, which now we meet with our clients video via Zoom. And location doesn't matter, because with our clients that are in different states, I still get on a call with them. I still get on the Zoom with them. I share my screen. I go over all of the figures with them. I go over all of the forms that they provided us to make sure we didn't miss anything. And so it's just like if they were sitting here in person, but we save time on traffic. We save time on traveling, to that location. So to me, location doesn't matter. To me, it's more important about finding the person that matches, your personality and what you're looking for.
Yeah, and not just location, but I think as the world advances, I think your tax professional should advance as well, where they are making it easier for you to, just send it through the and not an email, but like a portal.
Correct.
Things like that,
Yeah.
where I think it should be a big reason that you want to stick with somebody.
Yeah, so we sometimes get new clients that are like, oh my gosh, we've never had to sign digitally. Like, that's super cool. Or that, we've had to bring, a shoebox of documentation to their office. It's like, no, you can now upload, you can scan things to a secure portal, you can digitally sign. Everything can literally be done electronically now, so that it saves you time. It's easier for you to take care of the whole entire transaction via that portal.
And then we touched base a little bit on it, but just major reasons why somebody should maybe look for a new tax professional, and not just like an online thing, or they become self-employed, major changes in their lives.
Yes. So a lot of times people think that, they're okay the way they are until something does happen, like a sale of a property, a death, like a spouse dies, or they inherit something. Maybe they start to buy properties now. They bought their first rental property. They became self-employed, and now all of a sudden they're selling something. And so they have a lot more questions. So you want to find, that professional that's going to guide you, that's going to be with you along this journey. Sometimes I get individuals that come in and they're like, well, I had to leave my preparer because they knew nothing about businesses. They only deal with W-2 people. Or they really don't work on rentals. The mistakes I sometimes see on tax returns when you deal with somebody that is not experienced in that area. And so you want to go and you want to find that professional that really takes pride in those specifics, because you want them to serve you as the guide. You don't know, so who are you going to turn to? You have to turn to your professional to answer those questions.
I even see it as simple as marriage or divorce.
That's drama right there. Divorce
but that's
is
like
messy.
A change that changes your tax.
Yes. So that could be a little messy sometimes, because here we have a couple who we've been meeting with for years, and now they get divorced, and it's like we have to pick. Whoever contacts us first and says, okay, I want you to be my professional, is basically the person that we end up with. And then when the next person calls, the spouse calls, we have to turn them away. We can't, unless both of them are okay, but it's still not it's still not professional. Like, we have to make a choice. And then we have to turn one of them away, because we can't share information. It's confidential. And sometimes divorces are messy and there's drama, and then we get dragged into the drama. And so we definitely don't want to get stuck in the middle of, do you know what he did, or what she did, and did she marry again? And I'm like, I can't tell you this stuff, And so we rather sometimes just say, okay, we can only work with one, and we have to pick, and that's not fun, but you guys force us to do it. So no divorces. Well, anything else, let's see, that we would want to cover? I think at the end of the day, the whole thing about this topic is just to make sure that you realize when maybe you've outgrown your tax professional. Maybe that, there's an event that causes you to look for a new professional, but that you take the time to check off the list and making sure that no things are missed. A prior year tax return has a lot of valuable information in it. It has carryovers that you need in the new year. So you want to always bring the prior year tax return over to your new tax professional to make sure schedules that are in there are not missed. So with that, we'll wrap up, and we'll mention that there is going to be a link, right, for them to download.
Yeah. So there's going to be a link on our website of the top 5 things to look out for in your tax professional, with a little bit of detail on why you should be looking at that. But you can go to our website at prominencebusiness.com, and there'll be a link for you to download that.
Please remember to follow us on all our social medias. Our Instagram is prominence.services, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thank you. So if your mindset is ready to excel to the next level, and you want to give up the multiple hats to a business who will support you Then schedule a call with us today. We can be reached at 626-825-8249. Please give us a review and share us with your friends and family.